Okay, I want you to try and transport yourself back in time with me. It's March 18th, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this era, just before smartphones were everywhere. People are still clutching their Blackberries.
Right. No Instagram, no TikTok.
Yeah.
That's still, what, a decade away?
Over a decade. And the Democratic primary, it's not just a political race. It's this heavyweight boxing match. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama.
And it has been going on for rounds and rounds. I mean, it was an absolute gridlock, no knockout in sight.
Every single delegate mattered.
The energy was just incredibly high. You had two historic candidates. But then, right in the middle of this stalemate, the floor just drops out from under the Obama campaign.
Floor drops out. I think that's putting it mildly. This was the moment it looked like the wheels were really coming off the bus.
Yeah.
We are talking, of course, about the Jeremiah Wright controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're looking at the response to that crisis, a speech called A More Perfect Union.
And this isn't just about, reviewing a piece of oratory. This is really about analyzing a high-wire act. We're looking at how a candidate who had built his entire campaign on being a unifier suddenly had to talk about the most divisive topic in American history. Race. All to save his political life.
The stakes were just wildly high. And to really get why this speech mattered, we have to understand the specific kind of panic that was happening in March 2008.
Right.
Obama's whole brand is hope. He's the no red states, no blue states guy. And then all of a sudden, everyone's TV is just filled with his pastor.
His pastor for 20 years.
Shouting some pretty incendiary things.
And that's the key context.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that he had a, quote, radical friend. It was that the clips that surfaced completely contradicted the brand Obama was selling.
Yes, exactly.
If you're the uniter and your spiritual mentor is shouting, "Goddamn America" from the pulpit, you start to look like a fraud.
I remember those clips just looping on cable news. It was inescapable. ABC News was broadcasting excerpts where Wright isn't just criticizing policy.
No, it's way beyond that.
He's saying the U.S. government invented HIV as a tool of genocide. He's blaming the U.S. for, quote, killing innocent people.
And a soundbite that really, really stuck, the one that played on every single 24-hour news cycle, was him flipping "God bless America"
to "goddamn America."
Yeah, citing the Bible and blaming the country for its treatment of citizens based on their color.
Politically, this is a nightmare scenario. So Obama had to distance himself right away, right? He kicked right off his African-American Religious Leadership Committee.
He did. He issued all the standard political statements. "I condemn these remarks. This isn't who I am," that sort of thing.
But the standard playbook just wasn't working.
No, the bleeding didn't stop.
Because the question wasn't just about the remarks anymore. It became, Barack, you're a smart guy. You sat in those pews for 20 years. You baptized your kids there.
Did you not hear this? And if you did, why on earth did you stay?
Exactly. It attacked his judgment, his authenticity.
He was being painted as this secret radical who was just playing a moderate on TV. And the campaign is in full-on panic mode. They realize a press release is not going to fix this.
They need a reset, a hard reset.
And this is where we get into the weeds of the writing process, which I just find fascinating.
Me too. This wasn't some speech that was focus grouped for months. This was like a term paper do at dawn situation.
It really was.
Mm-hmm.
He starts dictating a draft to his speechwriter, John Favreau, on a Saturday night. He works all through Sunday. This is a candidate in the middle of a grueling primary.
Who's staying up until 3 in the morning?
3 a.m. on a Sunday night, refining the arguments himself.
3 a.m. I can barely write a coherent email at 3 a.m., let alone a speech that's supposed to, define race relations for the 21st century.
And he was still editing it Tuesday morning, right before he walked out. He sends the final draft to David Axelrod, his chief strategist.
And Axelrod's response is just legendary in political circles now.
It is. He reads it and just emails back. "This is why you should be president."
Which is such a bold thing to say when your candidate is about to go talk about the original sin of America.
So he chooses Philadelphia, the National Constitution Center. He's not doing this at some rally with cheering fans.
No, the setting is very somber. It's academic.
He walks out, flags behind him, and he doesn't start with a soundbite. He starts with the Constitution. "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union."
He's grounding the crisis in the bedrock of the country, but he also grounds it in his own story immediately. He doesn't run from his, quote, exotic background.
No, he leans right into it. He has to. He reminds everyone he's the son of a black man from Kenya and a white woman from Kansas.
And he says that great line, In no other country on earth is my story even possible.
Right. He's positioning himself as the physical embodiment of the American experiment itself.
But then he has to pivot. He can't just talk about the Constitution forever. He has to talk about the guy shouting on everyone's TV screen.
And this is the strategic pivot. The conventional wisdom here is you throw the guy under the bus.
Oh, absolutely. Say he's crazy, say you barely knew him, and move on. Cut the anchor.
That's politics 101. Isolate the threat.
Yep.
But Obama does something much, much riskier. He condemns the remarks. He calls them incendiary and a distorted view of the country. But then he says, I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community.
And this is the part that I think really just stopped people in their tracks. He creates this parallel. He compares Jeremiah Wright to his own white grandmother.
This is the moment of rhetorical brilliance and extreme risk.
Yeah.
He brings up Madeline Dunham, the woman who raised him, the woman who sacrificed everything for him.
And he admits on national television that this woman he loved once confessed she was scared of black men passing her on the street.
He admitted she used racial stereotypes that made him cringe.
Yeah.
So think about what he's asking the listener to do. He's saying, look, I have a white grandmother who has prejudices, but I love her. I have a black pastor who has this anger, but I love him.
They are both messy, imperfect parts of my life.
And they are both parts of America. It just completely neutralizes the monster narrative.
Right. By comparing Wright to his grandmother, he's basically saying, we all have family members who say things at Thanksgiving that make us uncomfortable, but we don't kick them out of the family?
Precisely. It forced white voters specifically to think about their own families rather than just judging Obama's. It shifted the whole lens from, is Obama a radical, to something more like, how do we deal with the complexities of the people we love?
But he didn't stop at just people are complex. He actually tries to explain why Wright was so angry. This is where he kind of puts on the professor hat.
He does. He contextualizes the anger. He argues that you can't understand Jeremiah Wright without understanding the Jim Crow South. He talked about the bitterness and bias of a generation that suffered real legal humiliation.
He made the point that for that generation, the anger isn't just made up, it's a scar.
Yes. He paraphrased Faulkner. The past isn't dead and buried. In fact, it isn't even past. He was telling white America, look, what you hear in those sound bites, that's the overflow of pain that usually stays in the barbershop or at the kitchen table. You're just seeing it spill out.
So he validates the black experience, but then, and I think this is the part that maybe won him the election, he pivots to white resentment, and he doesn't scold them.
This is the section that always gets overlooked, but it is the intellectual core of the speech. He acknowledges that working-class white Americans are angry too.
Right.
And instead of just dismissing that anger as simple racism or prejudice, he validates the economic roots of it.
He brings up busing. He brings up affirmative action. He says, essentially, I get it.
He says that when white workers hear about affirmative action, they don't see historical correction. They see their own hard work being devalued. They see a zero-sum game where they feel like they're losing ground.
That is a massive departure for a Democrat in 2008. I mean, usually the line is, check your privilege. But Obama's saying, no, your anxiety is real. Your economic fear is legitimate.
He called it a racial stalemate. He argued that for years, politicians have exploited these divisions. He said we treat race as a spectacle. We obsess over the O.J. Simpson trial or Katrina.
But we ignore the underlying structural rot.
Exactly. The rot that hurts both the black factory worker and the white steel worker.
So he's trying to bind their fates together. He's saying, you guys are fighting each other over crumbs while corporate interests run away with the pie.
That's it. He's trying to create a class-based coalition that transcends race. He's telling the white voter, you have more in common with the black man in the pew at Trinity United than you do with the CEO closing your plant.
So that's the argument. But let's talk about the reception. Because in 2008, the media landscape was changing. This speech wasn't just on CNN, it went on YouTube.
And we have to remember what YouTube was in 2008. It wasn't what it is now.
No.
Watching a 37-minute video on a desktop computer was a commitment. And yet it got 1.2 million views in 24 hours.
Which for the time is basically a Super Bowl audience for a political speech. It's insane.
It signaled a huge shift. People were bypassing the cable news sound bites. They wanted the full context. It allowed Obama to, speak to the electorate like adults.
So his supporters obviously loved it. Historic, Lincoln-esque, all that. But I want to look at the critics because this was not a universal slam dunk.
Not at all. There was a very wide spectrum of reaction. On the support side, sure, you had people like Bill Richardson, the New Mexico governor, who said the speech actually clinched his endorsement.
Okay.
But you also had some shocking defenses from the right.
Mike Huckabee, I was reading about this and I did a complete double take.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee, a Republican candidate, went on Morning Joe and defended Obama.
Wow.
As a former pastor himself, Huckabee said, look, sermons are emotional. They're not scripted. We need to cut people some slack who grew up under Jim Crow. He basically told his own party to back off.
That is a level of nuance we don't see much of these days,
To put it mildly. But then you had the real skeptics. Ed Koch, the former NYC mayor, he wasn't buying it. He hated the grandmother comparison. He felt it was a deflection.
And Charles Krauthammer, the conservative columnist, he really went for the throat.
Krauthammer was brutal. He called the speech a brilliant fraud. He thought it was an intellectual magic trick.
A magic trick.
Yeah. His argument was, Obama gave us this whole history lesson on Jim Crow to explain right, but he never answered the personal question. Why did you, Barack Obama, a man of the future, stay in a church stuck in the past? Krauthammer called it a sophistic justification.
So you have one side calling it a masterclass and the other calling it a brilliant fraud. But in the end, the voters clearly broke toward Obama.
The polling showed it worked. A CBS poll found 69% of voters thought he did a good job addressing the issue. It didn't make the right controversy disappear, of course.
No, the Republicans used it all the way to November.
They did. But it stopped the panic. It neutralized that Manchurian candidate. Fear for enough independence to keep the campaign alive.
I want to end on the story he used to close the speech, because for all the talk of the Constitution and Jim Crow, he ends with this really small, intimate story. The story of Ashley Baya.
This is the emotional hook.
Yeah.
He couldn't end on policy. He had to end on feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Baya was a young white campaign organizer in South Carolina.
Right.
She's organizing a community meeting, and she shared her story that her mom had struggled with cancer and bankruptcy, and she wanted to fix the system.
And at the same meeting, there's an elderly Black volunteer.
Right, an older Black man who sees Ashley, this young white woman, trying to hold together. He tells everyone in the room to listen to her. And the quote Obama uses is that this man says, I am here because of Ashley.
It's the goosebumps moment. You have the young white organizer and the old Black volunteer realizing their struggles, healthcare, poverty, insecurity are actually the same struggle.
And Obama describes the scene. Ashley handing out mustard and relish sandwiches. It just grounds these high ideals of the Constitution in the reality of a community center in South Carolina.
It was his way of saying, this union becomes more perfect, not in the halls of Congress, but right here, between these two people.
It's a powerful narrative.
It is. But looking back on it now, it does raise a question. The speech was titled, A More Perfect Union. Do we feel like the speech actually moved the needle on race, or was it just a brilliant survival tactic?
That is the enduring debate, isn't it? Academics compare it to JFK's speech on religion, or Lincoln at Cooper Union. These moments where a candidate turns a liability into an asset. The New Yorker argued that this speech is the reason he became president.
But there's a but.
But critics would argue that while it got him elected, the racial stalemate he described didn't break. In fact, you could argue the backlash to his presidency proved just how deep that stalemate really was.
So was it a moment of genuine teaching, or was it just the most effective political magic trick of the modern era?
You know, it's possible that in the landscape of American politics, to survive, it had to be both.
Mm-hmm.
He had to teach us just enough to get us to vote for him. But maybe one speech couldn't fix the underlying crack in the foundation.
It's a speech that really demands a reread, especially now. The rhetoric holds up, even if that, post-racial optimism feels a little distant.
Absolutely. It's a document of a very specific moment where we dared to hope that talking like adults might actually solve the problem.
If you haven't read the full text or watched that 37-minute video, it is really worth your time, especially that Ashley Baya story at the end. It lands.
It really does.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.